The Employers Confederation of the Philippines, or ECOP, has some concerns over the proposed 4-day work week. We discuss this with Sergio Ortiz-Luiz, ECOP President. Good evening and welcome to The Big Story.
Good evening, Jay. Good evening, Sean. And good evening to those who are watching us.
What are the concerns, sir, about the 4-day work week?
Well, we are prepared to cooperate, but what we're just saying, it cannot be compulsory for everyone because no formula fits all. No, it can work with some companies, like BPOs, for instance, if they're not face to face, some backroom work. But obviously, you cannot do that to a lot of industries, like the health industry. You cannot close the hospital and open only 4 days a week. The manufacturing, for instance, they cannot stop manufacturing and stay on construction. Even the schools, you cannot take away that many from their own media. You yourself, you cannot be 4 days a week only.
Well, understood.
So
But certainly, some sectors can definitely implement a
yes,
4-day work week.
like what happened during the pandemic. There were some who went into it. Some were happy on the result. Some, of course, got burned and said that they're not going to do it again.
Right. So there's two ways of doing it, as I understand. One way to implement the 4-day work week is 4 longer days a week. The other one is 4 days, they go to work, normal hours, and then on the 5th day, it's work from home. So under your setup and based on the employers that maybe you have talked to, which is more amenable?
Well, work from home 1 day can work with some, again, BPOs, but it cannot work for manufacturing. It cannot work for construction. And so it's only basically for office workers, backroom workers. So that's not many. And shortening and work from home like that also can mean many no work, no pay employees, and there are quite a lot. Will have no income. On the short, on the lengthening the work making it work 10 hours a day. That's fine for some companies, but definitely the reason why internationally 8 hours is standard is because 8 hours is found out to be the most productive period for workers and employees. And more than that, also can be some hazardous for some health problems. So you come up with some expenses on that. And there are some legal aspects which has to be resolved, but can be solved, like what we did during the pandemic. For instance, micro small industries cannot afford to have overtime pays. So obviously, many of them are marginal operators, so they cannot pay overtime. So that's got to be settled, no? And the other thing is preparation of some aspects in the office space and some security purpose has to be addressed. So there's pros and cons. It can work for some, but I don't think it can work for many.
All right.
Especially
Fair enough.
the one that will be hit most will be. Do you realize that 90% of our workers are enterprises are 90%? We say that MSME is 99.5%. That's true. But do you realize that 90% of that are micro? Only 8% is small, only 1% is medium, and less than 1% is large. So obviously, the big ones, the likes of San Miguel, the likes of SM, they can afford to have that, but there are only a few of them, and the mostly the small ones cannot easily adjust.
But will members of the ECOP be meeting and presenting to government who among the members are amenable to a 4-day work week, a hybrid structure, so that, we are aware also, the public and the government is aware of what certain sectors are willing to do.
We are continuously in consultation. Even in the labor sector, we have a group, the Leaders Forum, where we meet regularly, and we exchange our ideas in this. And I was surprised that many of the labor groups do not want to do it also, because I think the reason is they feel a lot of their members will lose income.
Well, that's where your role comes in, to assure that, they won't get shortchanged here.
Yes, that's true. But we cannot answer for the no work, no pay. Because certainly, especially the small companies, they cannot adjust to that. Basically, everyone is looking at the problem is simply the fuel price. So we feel that we will cooperate, and if it's done on a voluntary basis, we will really encourage those who can do it to be able to join. But at the end of the day, it's really a government's problem. And I think the president is right in asking for a reprieve from the
Well,
tax, the excise tax, which he might be getting, and that should, The other thing that we and I think most of the laborers also are agreeable, is that instead of there are proposals, for instance, to decrease the value-added tax for everyone by 2%, but rather than that, because that will target only those who are big users, big companies, big rich people, we'd rather that whatever money they're willing to give away, and they say this is in a way going to return what was stolen that is being recovered, then apply it then to fat up the pupils. Then everybody profits from it also. And it blunts
I
the
wish it was
possible.
that easy, sir, to do that. I think that's what everyone is thinking, right? Like, why can't they just abolish the excise tax and the VAT? Because, where do the taxes go anyway? But like you said, 90% of MSMEs are micro. And it makes me worry, and I might be sounding a little fatalistic here, but if this conflict is protracted,
yes.
I mean, can businesses actually survive? And how can we find that sweet spot?
I think right now, we're not feeling the pain so much yet. But when the prices really get exorbitant, then all of us will be, trying to find ways. It's better to be prepared now.
Right.
And to anticipate what may be a prolonged situation. Don't you
But
think the private sector is too, relaxed
Optimistic?
leaving everything to government to solve this problem? I think we're all in this
The
together.
private sector are losing sleep, worrying what will
sure.
happen to them. But just to give you some background, we have had crisis in 1978, no? And that was the time that
There
the
was
price went
rationing of gasoline.
rationing, no? But we are better situated now than that time for several reasons. Our GDP was at that time provided for by manufacturing and agriculture, who uses a lot of product. Now our GDP is provided in a big way by services, BPOs, tourism, and like so. So we are not exactly that dependent on. On the other hand, most of our neighbors are subsidizing their fuel and oil, no? And many of them produces their own. We only partly produce, so what happens is while they're subsidizing, we're taxing, and that's the irony of it. So that's why you cannot blame people to say, well, this is beyond us. We're willing to operate. We're going to go all the way so we can survive. But at the end
Also,
of the day, it's
also
the beyond their control, the prices.
right, but also those who will benefit from the removal of the excise tax are industries and just as a segment of society actually.
Yeah, and to add to
Not
what
really.
Seth said, that's why most economists favor targeted subsidies. What are your thoughts?
Targeted subsidies like what they were intending on the 2% lessening of the VAT will profit the richer. But if you apply it to electricity, if you apply it to power, no, it goes to who? The driver, the users. It goes to the 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 rich one and the poor one, because at the end of the day, what you're trying to avoid is spiraling prices, inflation, which can happen. If and our economy can really go to a negative one, no? So that's what we're trying to avoid. And the only way you can do that is by blunting the effect on the price of fuel and electricity. Because if that is the one that happened, that is stopped, which is beyond control of the business sector and many of our people, then we will spiral down.
I wish we could also consider, because, well, my concern about the removal of the excise tax, it may give us a false sense of security. Consumption will be the same. We should also talk about conserving the use of
I
energy.
agree, fully agree. The problem is, even if you remove the excise tax, if the prices goes beyond $120 per barrel, I don't think anybody will. It can cover everything, every increases, and a prolonged one, especially if it's a good thing now that we are not complete. As I said earlier, we're completely dependent on because then some industries will also prosper, like the alternate power industry, solar, windmills, and so those are some of the industries that can prosper. But there are definitely losers. Everybody will be losing.
Do you also support, very quickly, last question, Sergio, to establish a strategic petroleum fund for the Philippines just for emergencies like this? Because that would also be, of course, funded by taxpayer money.
Yes, if we can afford it, why not? I just don't know the numbers.
All right, we thank you for your time. Sergio Ortiz-Luiz, as always, President of ECOP.